Leave it to an intern to rug pull an entire community in front of the world on Twitter for a very reputable brand. I'm, of course, talking about the Coinbase intern and the base rug pull, or was it a rug pull? More on that in a bit. Welcome to Cryptocurrents, the weekly podcast of people working in crypto telling you everything that's important that you should pay attention to in crypto right now. Think of us like your favorite used bookstore on a college campus. You walk in at the first day of the semester, buy your books, and everything's highlighted already, so you don't have to do all that reading. It gives you a lot more time to go get drunk on rooftops or do keg stands, whatever it is people are doing in college these days. I'm your host, Vince, and today I'm joined by our resident degen Kale from the Encrypt team,
Yo.
and certainly someone that's never been drunk on a roof in college, Katya from the Mew team.
Those photos were shared in confidence, Vince.
I know, and they are in my folder of blackmail. But before we talk about blackmail and the base intern, let's instead pivot and talk about Kraken, who just rolled out ETF and stock trading in their app as they're moving towards becoming an everything finance app. And this is really cool to see, even though it's only in like 5 states currently.
10.
10. Okay. And it was a small number. And I think this is really interesting to see as they gear up for their IPO, because I would not be surprised if they tokenize their IPO and really kind of like do a fun thing that way. But what are your guys' thoughts on Kraken becoming an everything finance app?
It's pretty cool. I'm not really the hugest TradFi guy, but maybe I will be now. Because it's like I kind of am a Kraken fanboy. I've been using Kraken since I got into crypto. Like they are my go-to centralized exchange. So to see them doing stock market stuff, it's like maybe I'll dip my toes. If Kraken starts offering some kind of Bitcoin IRA, YOLO, dude, I'll try it.
YOLO, dude, indeed. So do you think that there is a kind of a cross-pollination then that might occur with all these people that are like you, Kale, that are then going to be like, ooh, yeah, maybe I will pick up some shares of whatever REIT
Yeah,
of the week?
100%. Especially if they make it easier to cross over from on-chain to stock stuff, because right now if I wanted to buy stuff on the stock market using my on-chain funds, I would have to do a bunch of things and transfer here and there and do all this stuff. And then I could buy a stock. But if Kraken makes it easier somehow, then I'm sure people will start using their assets on chain to buy stocks. Why not?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never bought crypto in Robinhood, and I wonder how they like handle all of that. Is that like something that where you can use your pool of crypto funds, or I wonder if there's like a wall between them. But I mean that's going to be fun to play with, I guess, because California was not one of the states, so I still have to wait before I can try out
Of
this new
course.
Kraken stuff. Spoiler alert. At least it's not New York. Nothing it works in New York.
Yeah.
Katya, talk to me about this Kraken development.
Well, the thing is, I've been talking for a long time, for years, about how I've thought ever since I got into crypto in 2018, I've thought that eventually there will be a group of people, a generation of people that would be crypto first, and that would be their first exposure to financial instruments, period. To the idea that beyond cash, so to speak, beyond just getting a paycheck and spending it, there's things you can do with assets, and crypto would be their first exposure to that, to manipulation of assets. And actually, it reminds me, like, I've recently spoken to some acquaintances of mine that are around Kale's age, in their 20s, and
Kale's 30.
okay, we don't need to. Honestly, if Kale is in
Don't
his
let him
20s,
don't let him
If-
convince you he's young.
No,
He's not that young.
I'm somewhere
you
in
don't
between
understand.
15 and 30.
If
You
Kale
can't tell.
is in his 20s, then I am in my 30s. Do you understand?
Ah,
where
I
this is
see.
going?
I understand. Okay.
Yeah, but
It all makes sense now.
and they literally this group of people, they were literally talking about how they're playing around with crypto. They're not too worried about, they're not stressing too much about what happens to it. They're trying to like stay cool about it. But they literally said, but we're getting some practice with markets for when we have real money, when we care about what happens to this money. And we're getting some practice in terms of trading and understanding how all of that works. So it's a little bit like you guys, we talked about this amongst ourselves about how gaming, some people think that gaming has trained crypto founders for the crypto economics, tokenomics, and communities. And I guess this is another way of looking at it, that crypto trading is an exposure to trading for young people who have never had a brokerage account, never even thought about it. Maybe even their parents didn't, because not everybody grows up in a family that has financial literacy and knowledge and the resources to be in the market. And I think the fact that I'm sure there are plenty of people who got into Kraken for crypto and don't have traditional finance accounts, younger people. And so they will enter traditional finance now with Kraken via crypto, which is a newish thing. And that's very exciting to me. I think that's a trend that's going to grow and bring more people in, and a kind of a different direction. We always think about bringing people from TradFi into crypto, but this is the opposite way. And I think it's legitimate, and I think it's going to have more people, attract more people, and educate younger people who are just playing with crypto about the more traditional markets that are more established and more mature.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to kind of watch the intersection of Robinhood and Kraken, where it's like Robinhood started with stock, and then it's like, well, let's start to do crypto, and Kraken is now doing the other one, the other way. And I wonder if they're trying to eat each other's lunch, or if they kind of see it as like a rising tide lifts all boats. I expect there to be a shift in Kraken's marketing very soon, and I think it'd be really fun to watch and see how they're approaching that. Cool. So something else that I think is really important to talk about related to stocks is, as we're recording this, and you're probably listening to it probably tomorrow, but we're recording this on 4/17, the stock market is closed tomorrow for Good Friday. And I feel like it's always fun for us to kind of talk about market closures and how they relate not to crypto. And it's always kind of indicative for me of what is a real holiday when the stock markets are closed, but at the same time, as someone that is not Christian, I'm like, it's closed for Good Friday. Okay, like what? Why? What a strange holiday to close for. I always thought the Monday after Easter was a better holiday. But what are your reactions to the market closure for Good Friday, Katya?
I mean, we spoke about this, about the inauguration day or President's Day or whatever it was. There was another one.
I think it was Martin Luther King Day.
Martin Luther King Day, maybe. Yeah. So honoring presidents or something. But Good Friday is even more arbitrary, arguably, because the market is global. I know we are in the US, but the market is global. Not everyone is a Christian, and not every. So, yeah, I think to me, somehow it makes even less sense than a President's Day or something like that. I don't know. I feel like the traditional finance market people are tired of it themselves. Otherwise they wouldn't be so like hyped about to bring tokenization of stocks and bringing things on chain.
Yeah, this is like the biggest selling point for bringing things on chain is that the stock market closes on random days, you know. So, I mean, it's random to me at least, because I don't really consider myself Christian either. But it's like, it's like, why? Just bring everything on chain already.
Yeah, that did kind of like knock something loose in my head, though, is like, do you think, so like market closures and markets not being 24/7 have always kind of been a way to control them from crashing. And
That makes
after we saw the
sense.
crashes of like Black Monday and that we got the circuit breakers, which if you're not familiar with, if the stock market drops 7%, there is a 15-minute pause on all trading,
I never
and then it
knew.
and then if it drops
Wow.
another 5%, don't quote me on these, there is an hour pause, and
What?
then if it drops another like 3% after that, it is done for the day. So there are these stop gaps in place to prevent panics and runs and let people actually like understand what is happening.
How do you feel
And if
about
we
those, Vince?
I think they're great. I think some of this volatility is really important to manage. There's that great comic where it's like someone overhears something on the left side of the comic, and they're like, "Oh yeah, why would anyone go by that store?" And then as the comic progresses, it turns into like a buy order on the entire floor because of what someone heard them mention. And the same thing works with sell, right? And I do think stability in markets is important for the financial institutions of the world. And I think, we always talk about like crypto eventually stabilizing as it gets spread out. I do wonder if we're going to need to put kind of these stops in place and how that would even work or look. Probably
Yeah,
couldn't.
because like coming from completely on-chain culture, like I never traded any assets before crypto, and then now learning that about the stock market, it's like blows my mind. It's like wow, I like that's crazy that that's actually a thing. And I feel like if those rules were to be applied to crypto, like crypto people would not be down for it because it's already like there's this culture in crypto that is like we're allowed to do whatever we want and nobody can control us, So I don't know. I don't think crypto people would take that well, but that's super cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So what else is interesting? I think that's going on right now is Vitalik just released one of his long, very long blog posts, where he kind of outlines some roadmap stuff specifically for privacy in Ethereum, which is I think is really good when he kind of does these roadmaps where he's like, here's kind of where his head's at, and then the ecosystem generally follows. And I do like that he kind of outlines, and it's a great read. I recommend reading it. It is long though. He talks about how he has a unique view on privacy just because if he goes out to fast food, it makes headline news, right? People take photos of him when he's doing anything, and his privacy is pretty much gone for the rest of his life. But he talks about a lot about how we need to start putting more things in place that are privacy by default. And I think this is really cool, just because I do feel like so much of our lives have been taken over by tech, and it's all very out in the open in a lot of the worst ways. But Kale, you seem like you are a private dude. Talk to me about privacy and your thoughts on Vitalik's stance.
I mean, I generally agree with his sentiment. How I feel about privacy on chain, I heard a great analogy at DevCon last year, and it's one of my favorite things now. I think about it all the time because it's so true. He said, I forget who the speaker was, but he said that when you're in your house and you're doing private things in your house you don't want people from the outside to see, you just close your curtains and then you have privacy. You can do whatever you want in your house. Granted, you could be doing illegal things in your house. That doesn't mean we ban curtains, and the same thing applies to crypto, where it's like, just because we have these tools for privacy that allows people to do things behind closed doors, just because they can be doing illegal things, that doesn't mean you ban the curtain, so to speak. So, I mean, I generally agree with Vitalik. I think the more privacy, the better. Encryption should be baked into every single layer. So, yeah, it's probably going to take a while, but I definitely think that it's the right direction for sure.
I like that it's going to take a while because I think that means they'll hopefully do it right. I think
True.
sometimes when crypto moves too fast is when it kind of breaks down. Like everyone was talking about account abstraction for so many years, and then Vitalik in an afternoon was like, "Oh wait, I have the solve for this. Never mind." Katya, talk to me about his piece.
I just wanted to add that the talk that Kale mentioned, we went to that together, and it was great because it was rhymed. it was like a children's story about like a town with
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
glass buildings. Like I highly
Whoa.
recommend looking it up and seeing the whole thing because it was like all in verse. Not all of it, but like a large chunk of it was in verse about this curtain salesman who was banned from this. Anyway, it's like a whole
It's a
world.
great analogy.
Okay, now I'm super intrigued.
Yeah, but well, the other thing that I was thinking about when reading this Vitalik's blog and reading about this is that I think this conversation is very important, probably overdue, but certainly timely, because with blockchain, privacy, the importance of privacy is taken to another level, I feel like, for two reasons: because of public blockchains' inherent transparency, which is unprecedented. So if you know a wallet, you can follow the actions of that wallet. Is even as a regular person, if you know how to use a block explorer, which many people do, something that you could never do with regular banking, that was always obfuscated. So there's this unprecedented transparency, or the possibility of this transparency at least. And the second thing is how much potentially we do want to put on chain in the future, including identity, including personal information, medical information. There's great potential benefits to putting this information on chain. And this is something that a lot of companies in the space and projects are looking at doing. But if we do that, then the importance of privacy is like 1,000x compared
100%.
to even internet privacy today, because we're potentially putting highly sensitive things on chain. So I think it's very important. And like a lot of things, it's not a sexy thing to talk about right now. It's not like coin going to the moon, doing 1,000x today. It's a long-term thing, kind of, but it's also true that Vitalik kind of does tend to always take an eagle's eye view of things because he is a strategist, and but I do hope that that his musings on it are taken seriously, and we see more activity in the space and more people taking its privacy seriously and making it more tangible, accessible, because there are private chains and then there are zero proof concepts, but they're very technical at this point, hard for users to understand, hard for users to access, hard to kind of understand. If I have a wallet, and even if it has a chain in it that is private, how do I use it to be private? What does it mean? So we're really not there yet at all, but it's super, super important because, and even now, people who have non-custodial wallets, self-custody wallets, and they're using them, I feel like a lot of them don't realize that all of those of their actions can later be looked up. So you have to be careful about who you let know that this wallet address is associated with you, the real life personality. I think a lot of people are unaware of this, and so going forward, it might be, they might regret sharing this information. So yeah, so it's a very educated part of the space, I feel like.
100%.
No, I agree.
The grandkids
Especially when you meet. Oh, go ahead.
Your grandkids are gonna know all the racist shitcoins you were buying, so you better behave.
I always think it's funny when I see people at conferences that go by the gist of what their wallet is. They're like 0x Fab, and I'm like, okay, I can figure out what 0x Fab wallet is, and then I can be like, oh, this is what you're doing? What's going on here, bud? And that's a big problem.
Like domain names that you're buying.
Oh, yeah. I've
people
definitely speculated on some weird ones.
Yeah, we know, Vince.
I can only imagine.
We know what you like.
Exactly.
Throwpillow.eth.
That's in my blackmail folder.
There you go. I'm a walking HR nightmare. Speaking of HR nightmares, let's end where we started with the base intern fiasco yesterday, Wednesday, the 16th of April. Kale, kind of what, because you were in the trenches like as it like popped off. Break it down for us, and then we'll kind of talk about why this is a shit show.
So, like you said, this just happened yesterday, so it's still kind of unfolding. So I don't even know where to start, dude. It's kind of insane. So basically, what happens is a shitcoin on Base goes live. It's called Base is for Everyone, and then sometime later, like 30 minutes later, the contract address to the token is tweeted out by the Base account, by the main Base account, and so of course, people have been waiting for Base to drop their own token, let alone shill a token from their account. And so this was their one bullet. This was their one chance, and they shilled a token, right, for the first time ever. So everybody aped in. It went up 5x in a matter of like 30 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. And then within the span of like 2 to 5 minutes, it dumps 90% out of nowhere. And so then, of course, everybody starts panicking. They're like, what just happened? You know, like, people expect that to happen from a shitcoin on Pump Fund. But for that price action to come from a shitcoin that the Base just shilled, like not even 30 minutes ago, people were going crazy. And here's the kicker. There's a wallet that bought the coin 1 minute before the post. And so people are speculating that, if I can't remember, actually, I don't know if that was the wallet, if it's confirmed that that was the wallet that sold. But that caused the huge 90%
Likely
candle.
it probably
yeah,
is.
I think so.
Let's be honest.
But
yeah.
people are speculating that it was the intern, and he literally pressed buy token, send tweet. And then, and so that happened. People were going crazy. Jesse Pollock was on Twitter Spaces for like hours, basically doing damage control. And speaking of which, like, I should be a politician, because it was crazy listening to him talk. Like, he answered no questions, took zero accountability. And people were just more upset by the end
boundaries.
of it. Yeah. People were just more upset by the end of that Spaces. And then fast forward 12 hours, and the token completely bounced back. Not only to all-time highs, it broke all-time highs. And I think, like, as of a couple hours ago, it's above all-time highs. So, I don't know. It's just a huge fiasco. I can talk about this forever. Like, Jesse said that it's not a meme coin, by the way. It's content. Yeah, and they're going to be doing, like, a bunch of these. He's like, yeah, we're bringing content on chain, and this is just the beginning, bro. Don't worry. Yeah, so, I don't know. In the beginning, everybody was saying it's a rug. Base rugged us. Coinbase rugged us. The intern rugged us. But a day later, now it's kind of just looking like another day in crypto. I think if anything, it maybe was like a sniper got a lot of control or got a lot of liquidity, and then ended up just taking profits. And
I was gonna say, do we know who has there been a public beheading of the intern?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like I said, this just happened yesterday, so I think people are still investigating.
I think a lot more information will come out, and we'll be able to talk more about it next week.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, as someone, you know, as we all are on the marketing communication front, like, what a nightmare to just like have this happen and be like, well, there's the rest of my week and my weekend where I have to like continue to talk and field this. And even if you do it well, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to take any accountability, you still have to show up and just continue to hammer those points home while people scream at you on a Twitter space.
I would not doubt if this was like a planned marketing thing. Sorry, Katya. Because
No. The other thing that I was going to say, though, is that it's horrible because presumably because Base is a chain, like they can't pull the plug. But if they could pull the plug, they're bad too, because then it's a centralized chain, and it's not it's not truly decentralized. It's not truly so like. Either way, you release this thing, and I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't want to I think it was idiotic what he was saying on the thing, but also at the same time, I would not want to be him in this
No.
situation.
And I'll fight you on it being a planned marketing thing, just because we've been through, multiple Coinbase summers. We're coming up on their on-chain summer event that they do every year. And I feel like this kind of like robbed a lot of goodwill from the builders, which at the end of the
100%.
day, I think it is the builders of any ecosystem that give that ecosystem value. And if you alienate them, then you just kind of got the traders, which eventually will go away. Because the moment that Solana just stops having a bunch of like traders trading meme coins, what else is there? They're not building a bunch of stuff on there that is adding value to that chain.
The only thing that like is bugging me about this whole thing about it's like this has to be a marketing stunt is Coinbase is so big. Like, how many people do you think, like, checked the copy? Like, they had lawyers, they had a whole legal team, they had, like, 30 people, like, double, triple, quadruple checking everything, and this happens still. So
I
it's
feel
like,
like
how?
Well, let me remind you of Solana's ad. Solana is pretty big.
True.
True that. Oh, yeah.
And I think the base team is siloed from the Coinbase team as well. I feel like they're definitely kind of off doing their own thing, and they're not in the Coinbase proper. Because I feel like the Coinbase office, I feel like makes you wear a suit, and the base office is like, whatever, wear a t-shirt.
True that.
I wonder if Jesse was, afraid of waking up with like a horse's head in his bed or something like that from the Coinbase.
Brian Armstrong's in his room being like, "What have you done?"
Yeah, that kind of tracks. I can see that because I mean,
because it is so niche, right? Like this was like such a niche thing for the crypto Twitter stuff that I don't know if that's kind of where they're trying to go for user acquisition and like onboarding, because that's not their bread and butter these days.
true.
But I could be dead wrong. Katya, what are your thoughts on all of this? Anything else?
I mean, I don't.
Deep sigh.
No, I mean, I remember. I guess it was like a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months back already when Jesse shaved his head.
Oh yeah.
For the what was it?
It was for something, but he had a base logo on the side of
100
it.
billion TVL.
Yeah, something like that. A specific number
Something.
TVL.
For base, and he shaved his head, and we talked about leadership and kind of what it looks like, and just I don't know. Like I thought that was silly but innocuous, but now after this Spaces, I feel like leadership is maybe lacking there a little bit. And I'm not dumping on Jesse specifically. It's just when it's this kind of thing, like people should be able to do whatever they want on it because that's the ethos, but we don't want to be an embarrassment too, and it's hard. It takes some intelligent navigation to kind of do that. And sometimes when you look at these founders or leaders of some of the blockchains, you're like, this is a guy I would not,
trust a fish stick with. Yeah,
I would not share a keg with in college at all. So not at all. But
This does also make me appreciate kind of like looking back at the history of my Ether wallet. Your guys' approach, prior to my arrival here, was like so judicious and neutral when it came to like coins and not promoting stuff. And I think that's part of what interested me at working at this company is it's not just like, let's get rich. It's like, yeah, we're grown-ups. We're making stuff that we want people to actually use.
Yeah, and then I got here.
Yeah,
and we
you
want to
be. I don't know. Like the company is pretty young. I'm one of the oldest people in the company, but it has always been kind of like a grown-up approach to it. But I think maybe just being there from literally the very beginning of Ethereum, we've seen so many things, how shit can happen and real people get hurt, because my Ether wallet has always been in close contact with users. Like with a lot of crypto companies, like not everybody can get support together right away. Like, they get their chain going or their product going, the token going, but they don't really have a support team. And I think my Ether wallet has always at least tried to be on the forefront with users. So after hearing so many stories of people being like, this is what happened to me, and you are always cognizant of the fact that there are real humans on the other side of this. Like, it's a game on screen for a lot of these shit coins and meme coins, and go up and go down. You look at the chart and it's like, ha ha, but there are people out there who participated in this, and real things happened to them, real consequences. So
True that.
And yet, Kale, you didn't play it. I thought for sure you would be.
Yeah, don't rub it in, man. Every time I check it in, it's like up
no.
10x more. I'm like, Jesus, I should whatever.
See, that opportunity costs, man. Don't look at it ever again. You'll just be sad.
True that. Base is dead to me.
At least until their next fun on-chain summer.
Yeah.
Then we can do the daily check-ins and spin the base wheel.
Oh, yeah.
It's always fun.
It's very exciting.
It's the fun part of crypto. Just like this podcast is the fun part of crypto, even though it must now come to an end because we've reached another ending of the Cryptocurrency podcast. I want to thank you, dear listener, for listening to the podcast. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever it is you're encountering this. We appreciate you here. All of the links to our Twitters are in the handles below. Let us know if we got something wrong or how much you made off base, specifically to Kale. I'm sure he'd love to hear that. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us continue to grow the show and bring these to you every week. And we will see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Later.
bye.